Today I want to share something with you that Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the most powerful spiritual teachers of the last century, understood deeply. That faith isn't always expressed in grand gestures or monumental moments. Sometimes the most profound spiritual transformations begin with the smallest seeds. Think about it. A tiny mustard seed, barely visible to the naked eye, can grow into a tree large enough to provide shade and shelter. A single kind word spoken at the right moment can change the entire trajectory of someone's life. One quiet decision made in faith can ripple out and touch your peace, your relationships, your health, and yes, even your finances. What if I told you that something as simple as what you carry in your pocket could completely transform the next 50 years of your life? I know that sounds impossible, maybe even a little strange. But before you dismiss this idea, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how certain small objects seem to carry meaning beyond their physical form? A worn photograph, a piece of jewelry passed down through generations, a smooth stone picked up on a meaningful day. These aren't just things. They become anchors, reminders, silent prayers that travel with us through our daily lives. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You've prayed for breakthrough, you've asked for blessings, you've declared abundance over your life, but somehow it feels like there's a disconnect between what you believe and what you're actually experiencing. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. It might even be the missing piece you've been searching for. You see, Shinn taught that we are spiritual beings living in a physical world, and sometimes we need physical reminders to keep our spiritual frequency aligned with divine abundance. We need something tangible that we can touch, something that moves with us throughout our day, something that whispers to our spirit, "You are not alone, you are blessed, you are provided for." This isn't about superstition or magic. This is about creating conscious touch points that activate your faith in the midst of ordinary moments. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this. They understood that certain objects, when carried with intention and faith, become more than just material things. They become symbols, declarations, living prayers tucked quietly into the fabric of your everyday life. And here's what's fascinating. Modern science is actually beginning to catch up with what spiritual teachers have known for millennia. We now know that our thoughts create measurable energy, that our beliefs shape our reality in ways we're only beginning to understand. So what if there were 3 simple items, ordinary, accessible, humble things that you could place in your pocket right now, items that carry profound spiritual significance? What if these small seeds of faith could begin to shift the energy around you, attract the blessings that have been waiting for you, and remind you moment by moment that you walk with divine support? The question isn't whether you deserve these blessings. You do. The question is whether you're ready to create the conscious reminders that will help you stay aligned with them. Now, before I reveal what these 3 items are, I need to be absolutely clear about something crucial, because without this understanding, you might mistake this practice for something it's not. This isn't about luck. It's not about charms or talismans or some kind of mystical magic trick. We're not playing with superstition here. We're engaging with something far more powerful and far more real. What we're talking about is faith. Pure, active, living faith. The kind of faith that moves mountains, opens doors, and aligns your entire being with divine provision. You see, there's a hidden truth that many people miss when they hear about spiritual practices like this one. They focus on the object instead of the principle. They think the power is in the thing itself, the item in the pocket, the ritual, the physical act. But that's like thinking the power of a key is in the metal, rather than in what it unlocks. The real transformation happens in your consciousness, in your mindset, in the decisions you make about what you believe is possible for your life. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this deeply, and she wanted to make sure her listeners grasped this foundation before moving forward. There's a passage in Scripture that captures this perfectly, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Let That sink in for a moment. Faith is substance. It's not wishful thinking, it's not crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Faith is the actual material, the building blocks of your future reality. It's evidence of what hasn't manifested yet, but is already real in the spiritual realm. This is where most people get the journey backwards. The world teaches us to see first, then believe. Show me the money, then I'll trust it's coming. Let me see the healing, then I'll have faith. Prove it. Exists, then I'll accept it. But spiritual law operates in exactly the opposite direction. God doesn't ask you to see before you believe. He asks you to believe so that you can see. This reversal, this complete flip in how we approach reality, is fundamental to how manifestation actually works. When you believe first, you set energy in motion. You create a frequency. You open channels that were previously closed. You become a magnet for the very things you're declaring over your life. This is why carrying these 3 items with intention isn't about the objects themselves having magical properties. It's about what they do to your consciousness every time you touch them, every time you remember they're there. They become anchors for your faith, physical reminders that keep you aligned with spiritual truth even when your circumstances are screaming the opposite message. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. I'm here bringing you practical spiritual wisdom you can actually use, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. Think about it this way. Your mind is constantly being bombarded with information, with doubt, with fear, with the evidence of lack or limitation. These small items become interruptions to that negative programming. They're like reset buttons for your spirit. Each time your hand brushes against them in your pocket, your subconscious receives a signal, a reminder that you're walking by faith, not by sight, that you're connected to something greater than what your eyes can see, that abundance, protection, and divine favor are not just possibilities but promises already working their way toward you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this, because understanding what each of these 3 items represents will completely change how you carry them and why they work so powerfully. If this is resonating with you right now, write in the comments, "I'm ready to walk by faith." What's fascinating about this principle is how it actually operates in your daily life. When you genuinely believe that God can bless your finances, you're not just thinking positive thoughts, you're literally opening a door. When you believe He can provide for your needs, you're opening a window. When you believe He can heal the deepest wounds in your mind and heart, you're opening yourself to a peace that transcends all logical understanding. This isn't metaphorical language. These are actual spiritual mechanics that have been understood by people of deep faith for thousands of years. Your belief creates permission, it creates space, it creates receptivity. Think of it like tuning a radio. The frequency is already broadcasting. The music, the message, the transmission is already happening. But if your receiver isn't tuned to the right station, you'll only get static. Your belief is what tunes you in. It adjusts your frequency to match the frequency of abundance, of healing, of divine provision. And here's where it gets really interesting, because we're now seeing something remarkable happen in our modern era. Science and spirituality, which have been viewed as opposites for so long, are beginning to speak the same language. Scientists today talk about how our bodies radiate energy. They measure frequencies, electromagnetic fields, vibrations that extend beyond our physical form. They're discovering that our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs actually create measurable waves of energy that interact with the world around us. What ancient spiritual teachers called spirit, modern quantum physics calls energy. What the Bible described as the light within us, science now measures as bioluminescence and electromagnetic resonance. These aren't contradictions. They're the same truth viewed through different lenses, different vocabularies describing the same underlying reality. This convergence is powerful because it validates what mystics and spiritual teachers have been saying for millennia. You are not just flesh and bone. You are a walking, breathing energy field. Every thought you think sends out a signal. Every belief you hold creates a vibration. Every emotion you feel radiates outward and attracts similar frequencies back to you. This is why your mindset matters so profoundly. This is why the decisions you make about what to believe, even when circumstances suggest otherwise, have such tremendous impact on your journey. When Florence Scovel Shinn taught about carrying these items with faith, she was teaching energy management. She was teaching consciousness alignment. She was teaching you how to become a deliberate broadcaster rather than a passive receiver of whatever frequencies happen to be floating around you. The hidden revelation here is that you're already carrying energy everywhere you go. The question is, what kind? Are you broadcasting lack or abundance, fear or faith, limitation or possibility? These three simple items become tools for recalibration, for transformation, for keeping your frequency dialed into the station of divine blessing, even when the world around you is playing a very different tune. The first item might surprise you, but once you understand its symbolic power and its role in energy cleansing, you'll never look at it the same way again. If you're beginning to see how powerful this really is, type in the comments, "My frequency is shifting." The truth is, when Jesus said, "Let your light shine before men," he wasn't speaking poetry or using a beautiful metaphor. He was stating a literal reality about your nature. You are a vessel of divine light. Right now, as you're watching this, you're giving off a spiritual frequency, a presence that extends beyond your physical body. And you already know this is true, because you've experienced it countless times. You've walked into a room and immediately felt peace wash over you before you even saw who was there. You've met someone for the first time and sensed warmth radiating from them within seconds. You've also encountered people who made you feel inexplicably anxious or uncomfortable, and you couldn't explain why, you just felt it. This isn't imagination. This is the reality of spiritual energy that every person carries. We are constantly broadcasting and receiving these invisible signals, these frequencies that communicate on a level deeper than words. Some people walk into a space and the entire atmosphere lifts. Others enter and tension fills the air. What's the difference? It's not their appearance, their words, or even their actions in that moment. It's the energy field they're carrying, shaped by their inner world, their thoughts, their feelings, their beliefs. This is one of those hidden truths that completely changes your understanding of personal transformation. Your spiritual energy is being shaped every single moment by what's happening in your consciousness. When you harbor resentment, you carry a frequency of bitterness that others feel even if you're smiling. When you dwell in gratitude, you radiate a warmth that draws people toward you. When fear dominates your thoughts, you emit an energy of contraction that makes others uncomfortable. When faith fills your heart, you broadcast an expansive presence that creates safety and possibility. The impact of this on your daily journey cannot be overstated. Every interaction you have, every room you enter, every conversation you participate in, you're bringing your energy field with you, and that field is either opening doors or closing them, attracting opportunities or repelling them, creating connection or distance. This is why your mindset isn't just about feeling better in your own head. It's about the tangible, measurable effect you have on the world around you and the world's response back to you. What Florence Scovel Shinn understood was that most people are unconscious broadcasters. They're not deliberately choosing their frequency. They're simply reacting to circumstances, letting external conditions determine their internal state, which then broadcasts outward and attracts more of the same. It's a cycle that keeps people stuck. But when you become conscious of this process, when you make deliberate decisions about the energy you're going to carry regardless of circumstances, everything begins to shift. This is where those three items come in as powerful tools for energy management. The first one specifically addresses cleansing and purification, removing the old frequencies that have been blocking your blessings and keeping you tuned to the wrong station. If you're realizing how much your energy affects everything around you, write in the comments, "I choose my frequency." There's a revelation that changes everything once you truly grasp it. When your inner life shifts, your outer world begins to reorganize itself around that shift. This isn't wishful thinking or positive affirmations trying to override reality. This is spiritual law operating with the same consistency as gravity. If your heart genuinely believes you are poor, not just in your conscious thoughts but in the deep convictions of your being, you will attract poverty. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because you're broadcasting on the frequency of lack, and that frequency magnetizes circumstances that match it. Conversely, When your spirit truly believes you are blessed, when that becomes your core identity rather than just something you hope for, you begin attracting blessing. When your soul is convinced of loneliness, you draw isolation toward you even in crowded rooms. But when your heart declares love, guidance, and divine provision as your reality, heaven itself begins aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities in your favor. This is the hidden mechanism behind why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while others struggle despite working just as hard. It's not luck, it's frequency. It's the inner conviction that's broadcasting outward and creating magnetic pull. There's ancient wisdom in Proverbs that captures this perfectly. As a person thinks in their heart, so they become. Not as they think in their head, but in their heart, that deep place where belief lives beyond intellectual agreement. And Jesus expanded on this truth when he said that, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What fills your inner world inevitably spills into your outer expression. You speak what you genuinely believe. You attract what you consistently confess. You live what you declare over yourself day after day. This is why your internal dialogue, the conversation you're having with yourself every moment, is so crucial to your transformation journey. Most people don't realize they're making declarations all day long. I'll never get ahead. Money is so hard to come by. Good things don't happen to people like me. These aren't just thoughts. They're creative statements that shape your energetic field and determine what you magnetically pull toward you. Now here's where this connects to the practice of carrying these three items with faith. They become anchors for your belief system. In the chaos of daily life, in moments of doubt, in seasons of challenge, your conscious mind forgets what you've decided to believe. Your thoughts get hijacked by circumstances, by fear, by old programming. But when you carry something physical that represents your faith, something you can actually touch, you create a tangible reminder that interrupts the spiral of negative thinking. Each time your hand brushes against it, there's a reset, a moment where your subconscious receives a signal that you are walking by faith, that you are blessed, that divine provision surrounds you. The object itself has no power, but your consistent interaction with it as a symbol of faith creates neural pathways, energetic patterns, and spiritual alignment that become stronger over time. The first of these three items specifically addresses the cleansing process that must happen before new blessings can flow freely into your life. If you're understanding how your inner beliefs create your outer reality, type in the comments, "As I believe, so I become." So imagine this moment. You're in the middle of a stressful day. Your mind is racing with worries about bills or relationships or health, and you reach into your pocket for your keys or your phone, but your hand brushes against this small item you've placed there with intention, and in that instant, something shifts. It's subtle but real, a whisper to your spirit. I am blessed, I am favored, I am not alone. This isn't magic happening. This is memory being activated. This is faith made visible and tangible in your daily experience. It's a physical trigger for spiritual awareness that might otherwise get buried under the noise of everyday life. The beautiful thing about this practice is that it's not some new age invention disconnected from spiritual truth. Jesus himself understood the power of physical symbols to represent deeper realities. Think about it. He took bread, the most ordinary substance, something people ate every day, and said, "This is my body." He took wine and declared, "This is my blood." He transformed a Roman execution device, the cross, into the ultimate symbol of eternal victory. Why would the Son of God use physical objects to communicate spiritual truth? Because he understood how we're designed. We are spirit beings living in physical bodies, navigating a material world, and we need bridges between the seen and unseen realms. God has always used simple earthly things to reveal profound spiritual principles. A burning bush that wasn't consumed, a staff that became a serpent, water turned to wine, 5 loaves and 2 fish, oil that wouldn't run out, mud placed on blind eyes to restore sight. Throughout Scripture, we see this pattern repeated again and again, the divine taking the ordinary and infusing it with extraordinary purpose. Not because the object itself contains power, but because it becomes a point of contact between faith and manifestation, between belief and breakthrough. This is exactly what Florence Scovel Shinn was teaching when she spoke about carrying these 3 specific items. She wasn't inventing something new. She was following a biblical blueprint that's been proven effective for thousands of years. The impact this has on your transformation journey is significant because it keeps your consciousness anchored to truth, even when your circumstances are screaming lies. Your environment might be saying, "There's not enough," but your pocket reminds you, "I am provided for." Your emotions might be whispering, "You're alone in this," but that subtle touch reminds you, "Divine guidance surrounds me." The world might be declaring, "Nothing ever changes," but this small ritual reinforces, "My life is shifting toward blessing." What's happening behind the scenes when you practice this is that you're training your awareness, you're disciplining your mindset, you're making deliberate decisions about which frequency you'll tune into regardless of external static. The first item represents purification and the removal of energetic blocks that have been preventing your blessings from flowing freely. If this biblical pattern of using physical symbols for spiritual truth resonates with you, write in the comments, "Faith made visible." Now let me be absolutely clear about something that could easily be misunderstood if I don't say it directly. The power is not in the garlic, the clove, or the salt. These items are not magical talismans. They don't possess some supernatural force that's going to change your life while you sit back passively. The real power is in your belief, in your faith, in your living connection to the divine source that created you. These objects are tools to stir that faith, to remind you moment by moment that you walk with divine assistance at all times. They're catalysts for your consciousness, not substitutes for your spiritual engagement. If this message stirred something in you, tap that like button. It helps this teaching reach others who need to hear it just as much as you did. This distinction is critical because I've seen people put all their hope in objects, in rituals, in external things, while completely missing the internal transformation that's required. The object is a reminder. The real work happens in your spirit, in your mind, in the decisions you make about what you're going to believe about yourself and your life. What we're really talking about here is remembering who you are, because somewhere along this journey, most of us have forgotten how powerful we are when we're walking in alignment with God. We've forgotten the promise that greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. Think about that statement for a moment. Greater is the Spirit dwelling within you than any force, any obstacle, any limitation in the external world. We've forgotten that Christ said, "If we ask, it shall be given. If we seek, we shall find. If we knock, the door shall be opened." These aren't suggestions or possibilities. These are promises. But we've been conditioned by a world that operates on fear and scarcity to doubt these truths. We've been taught to believe in our limitations more than our divine potential. We've accepted the narrative that we're small, powerless, at the mercy of circumstances and chance. And that mindset keeps us trapped in cycles that don't serve us. The hidden revelation here is that you've had access to this power all along. It's not something you need to earn or qualify for. It's already within you, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be activated through faith. When you carry these 3 items with conscious intention, you're not trying to gain power from them. You're using them as touch points to reconnect with the power you already possess. Every time you feel that item in your pocket, you're being called back to the truth of who you are. A spiritual being with divine backing, walking through a temporary physical experience with heaven's full support. This is why the practice works so powerfully for transformation. It's not about the object changing your circumstances. It's about the object reminding you to change your frequency, your belief, your expectation. And when those internal shifts happen consistently, your external reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new energetic signature. The first item specifically represents the cleansing that needs to happen, the old energy and limiting beliefs that need to be released so new blessings have space to enter. If you're ready to remember the power that's already within you, type in the comments, "I remember who I am." So when you place this item in your pocket with intention, you're making a physical declaration of spiritual truth. You're essentially saying to the divine, "I am asking, I'm seeking, I am knocking." It's not passive hoping, it's active faith. You're positioning yourself to receive what has already been promised to you, but which requires your participation to manifest. This physical act of carrying something sacred reinforces your spiritual intention and keeps it alive in your daily consciousness instead of letting it fade into the background noise of busy life. What happens next is where the real transformation becomes visible. You start to notice changes, but here's what's fascinating. The external world doesn't necessarily become easier. Your bills don't magically disappear. Challenges don't suddenly stop appearing. The traffic doesn't clear just for you. What changes is your inner world, and that makes all the difference. Your inner world becomes stronger, more resilient, more anchored in faith rather than fear. And when you're operating from that place of inner strength, you walk with a different spirit. People can sense it even if they can't. Articulate what's different about you. There's something that shifts in your presence, in your energy, in the decisions you make throughout the day. You stop reacting to circumstances and start responding from a place of faith. You stop seeing obstacles as dead ends and start recognizing them as redirections. You stop interpreting closed doors as rejection and start trusting their protection. This is the hidden impact of the practice. It changes your lens, your filter, your interpretation of reality. And when your interpretation changes, your experience of reality changes. Doors that were previously closed to you begin to open, not because the doors themselves changed, but because you're now carrying the frequency that those opportunities resonate with. Blessings that seemed impossible start finding their way to you through unexpected channels, synchronicities, divine appointments. Why? Because what you send out, you attract. When you're broadcasting faith, abundance, gratitude, and divine connection, you magnetize circumstances that match those frequencies. When you're sending out worry, doubt, and scarcity consciousness, you get more situations that confirm those beliefs. This is the journey from unconscious creation to deliberate manifestation. Most people are creating their reality by default, just reacting to whatever comes their way and wondering why the same patterns keep repeating. But when you engage this practice with genuine faith, you become a conscious creator, deliberately choosing the energy you carry and therefore the experiences you attract. The first of these three items represents the cleansing and purification process, removing the old frequency patterns, the accumulated negativity, the limiting beliefs that have been blocking the flow of blessing into your life. If you're feeling this shift happening in your own inner world right now, write in the comments, "My inner strength is rising." There's wisdom that's been passed down through generations. Curve spiritual teachers, and it goes like this. You cannot send out a prayer of faith and receive back fear. It's impossible. The universe, God, the divine intelligence that governs all things, it operates on the principle of correspondence. You reap what you sow, always. When you plant seeds of gratitude in your consciousness, you harvest joy in your experience. When you sow trust, you reap peace. When you consistently sow faith, you reap what most people would call miracles. This isn't religious rhetoric. This is spiritual law operating in your daily life with the same reliability as any natural law. The revelation here is that most people are unconsciously sowing seeds they don't want to harvest. They're planting worry and wondering why anxiety grows. They're sowing doubt and confused about why their dreams never materialize. They're broadcasting scarcity and frustrated that abundance eludes them. But the law doesn't judge what you plant. It simply returns to you more of what you've put into the ground. This is where the practice of making conscious declarations becomes transformative. When you deliberately declare, "I send out faith and attract blessing, I send out light and attract goodness, I send out trust and attract peace," you're not just repeating empty words or trying to convince yourself of something that isn't true. What's actually happening is that you're activating your mind, your spirit, your energy field, and your faith all at once. You're sending a signal to every level of your being. This is who we are now, this is what we believe, this is the frequency we're operating on. And repetition matters because you're essentially reprogramming patterns that have been running on autopilot for years, maybe decades. You're training your consciousness to expect blessing as your default instead of bracing for difficulty. You're teaching your nervous system to relax into trust rather than contract in fear. This training fundamentally changes your spiritual frequency. And that change in frequency is what creates the shift in your external circumstances. Think of it like tuning an instrument. If your internal frequency is out of tune with abundance, you can work as hard as you want, but the music of your life will sound off. But when you take the time to tune your instrument through these deliberate declarations, through these physical reminders, through conscious faith practices, suddenly everything starts harmonizing. The first item you'll carry represents this tuning process. It's about purification, about clearing out the discordant notes, the old frequencies that have been keeping you stuck in patterns you've outgrown. If you're ready to consciously choose what you're planting in your life, type in the comments, "I sow faith and reap miracles." What makes these 3 items so powerful in your transformation journey is that they serve as constant reminders of divine presence. Not occasional reminders when you happen to think about God, but moment-by-moment anchors that whisper to your consciousness, God is near right now. His Spirit is within you right now. His abundance surrounds you right now. This awareness, when it becomes constant rather than sporadic, completely transforms how you move through the world. It changes how you interpret challenges, how you respond to opportunities, how you interact with people, how you make decisions. You stop feeling like you're navigating life alone, and you start experiencing the reality that you're divinely guided, protected, and provided for in every single moment. Now, I'm going to reveal the first of these 3 items, and I want you to keep an open mind because your initial reaction might be surprise or even skepticism. The first item is a clove of garlic. Yes, you heard that correctly, garlic. And I know what you might be thinking. We're talking about spiritual transformation and divine alignment, and you're telling me to put garlic in my pocket. Stay with me because there's profound wisdom hidden in this seemingly ordinary choice, and once you understand the symbolism and the energy behind it, you'll never look at garlic the same way again. Throughout scripture and spiritual history, God has consistently used the most ordinary, humble objects to reveal extraordinary truths. When David faced Goliath, he didn't need elaborate weapons. He picked up 5 smooth stones from a brook, just rocks. Ordinary stones that became instruments of miraculous victory when combined with faith. When Moses needed to demonstrate God's power, he used his shepherd's staff, a stick he'd been carrying for years. When Jesus wanted to teach about provision, he used 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. When he wanted to demonstrate his identity, he used bread and wine, the most common elements of a meal. The pattern is clear. God specializes in taking what's ordinary and infusing it with extraordinary purpose. Garlic follows this same principle. For thousands of years across cultures and spiritual traditions, garlic has been associated with purification, protection, and the removal of negative energy. Now, before you think this sounds like superstition, understand that the power isn't in the garlic itself. The power is in what it represents and what it reminds you of. Garlic symbolizes the cleansing process that must happen before new blessings can flow into your life. It represents the removal of old energy patterns, limiting beliefs, and spiritual blockages that have been preventing your breakthrough. When you carry it with intention, it becomes a daily reminder that you are actively participating in your own purification and transformation. If you're open to discovering the deeper meaning behind this first item, write in the comments, "I'm ready for cleansing." The fascinating thing about garlic is that its symbolic power isn't something modern spirituality invented. This goes back thousands of years across multiple cultures and civilizations. Ancient peoples recognized something profound about garlic. They associated it with protection, with cleansing, with driving away darkness and negative forces. Whether we're talking about ancient Egypt, medieval Europe, or traditional Asian cultures, garlic consistently appeared in rituals designed to purify spaces, protect homes, and ward off sickness. Now, were they worshipping garlic? Of course not. They understood that certain elements in the natural world carry symbolic energy that can be harnessed through faith and intention. When we look at this through the lens of faith rather than superstition, we see that garlic represents God's cleansing work in our lives. It symbolizes what happens when we finally surrender the old patterns, the old pain, the old limitations, and invite the new to enter. This is purification. This is renewal. This is the necessary clearing that must happen before transformation can fully take root. There's a powerful verse in Psalm 51 that captures this perfectly. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. That prayer isn't just poetic. It's a recognition that we need divine intervention to cleanse what we cannot cleanse ourselves. Holding that clove of garlic in your hand before placing it in your pocket is an opportunity to pray that prayer. You're acknowledging that before you can receive the new blessings God has prepared for you, there needs to be a clearing out of old burdens. Before your cup can be filled with fresh abundance, it must be emptied of stale fear, outdated beliefs, and accumulated negativity. This is the hidden work that happens behind the scenes of every breakthrough. Most people want the blessing without the cleansing, the promotion without the preparation, the transformation without the transition. But spiritual law doesn't work that way. Think about it in practical terms. If you want to plant a garden, you first have to clear the land. You can't just throw seeds on top of rocks and weeds and expect a harvest. You have to remove what doesn't belong, turn the soil, create space for growth. Your life operates the same way. You might be praying for financial abundance while your consciousness is still cluttered with shame about past money mistakes. You might be asking for loving relationships while your heart is still holding resentment from old wounds. You might be seeking peace while your mind is still replaying traumatic memories on repeat. The garlic becomes your daily reminder that cleansing is happening, that old energy is being absorbed and removed, that you're making space for what's trying to come. If this concept of spiritual cleansing before receiving is resonating with you, type in the comments, "Create in me a clean heart." This is where so many people get stuck in their spiritual journey, and I want to be really honest with you about it. You might be crying out for financial blessings, declaring abundance, visualizing prosperity, but if your heart is still carrying fear about money, resentment toward those who have it, or guilt about past financial mistakes, you're blocking the very thing you're asking for. You haven't forgiven yourself for that business that failed, that debt you accumulated, those poor decisions you made years ago. And as long as that old energy of shame and lack occupies space in your consciousness, there's no room for the new abundance trying to enter. You cannot receive with closed hands. Think about that literally. If your fists are clenched tightly around what you're afraid to lose, you can't grab hold of what's being offered to you. If your heart is gripping scarcity, convinced there's never enough, abundance can't find a place to land. Jesus taught this principle when he said, "You can't pour new wine into old wineskins." The old container isn't equipped to hold the new blessing. Something has to shift first. The old must be released so the new can be received. This is where the practice becomes tangible and powerful. Take one clove of garlic, just one is enough. And as you peel it gently, removing that papery outer skin, you're engaging in a physical act that represents a spiritual reality. As each layer comes off in your hands, whisper this prayer with genuine intention. Lord, as I peel away these layers, peel away everything in my life that doesn't belong, every fear that's been holding me back, every limitation I've accepted as truth, every debt, whether financial or emotional, that weighs me down, every old memory that keeps playing in my mind, stealing my peace. This isn't just symbolic, this is participatory faith. You're actively engaging in your own transformation process. You're making a decision to release what you've been carrying, and you're inviting divine intervention to complete what you cannot do alone. The act of peeling becomes a meditation, a moment of mindfulness, where you're fully present to the cleansing that needs to happen. Some people rush through this step, treating it like a quick task to check off. But the impact comes when you slow down, when you allow yourself to feel the release, when you genuinely mean the prayer you're whispering. As that outer layer comes off, you might find yourself thinking about specific things you need to let go. A grudge against someone who hurt you, anxiety about a situation you can't control, shame about who you used to be before you knew better. Let those thoughts surface, acknowledge them, and consciously release them as the layer falls away. The second item will represent something beautiful that comes after this cleansing, but first, the clearing must happen. If you're ready to participate in your own cleansing and release what doesn't belong, write in the comments, "I release the old." Now, if the smell of garlic bothers you, and let's be honest, it's not exactly subtle, you can place it in a small cloth pouch or bag to contain the scent. But here's something powerful you can do first. Take those outer layers you peeled away and burn them. Yes, actually set them on fire in a safe container, watching as they turn to ash. There's deep symbolism in this act, because throughout Scripture, fire represents purification and transformation. Hebrews tells us, our God is a consuming fire. Fire doesn't destroy what's pure, it refines it. It burns away the dross, the impurities, the waste, and leaves behind gold. When you watch those papery layers burn, you're witnessing a physical representation of spiritual cleansing. Everything that doesn't belong, everything you've been carrying that was never meant to be yours, is being consumed and transformed. The old shame burns away. The old fear turns to ash. The old limitations dissolve in the flame. What remains is the pure clove, representing your purified intention, your cleansed energy, your renewed faith. This ritual creates a powerful moment of transition between who you were and who you're becoming. Once you have your prepared garlic clove, hold it gently in both hands. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. This is the moment of activation, where you infuse this physical object with spiritual intention through faith. Speak these words deliberately, with conviction. I activate this for blessings to flow into my life. Lord, cleanse my heart, my thoughts, and my energy. Let this be a symbol of your divine protection and prosperity. Say it 3 times, not because there's magic in repetition, but because 3 represents divine completion, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Trinity, wholeness. Each time you speak it, you're not just repeating words, you're layering your faith, strengthening your intention, aligning your consciousness with divine abundance. The first time you say it, you're declaring to your mind. The second time, you're declaring to your spirit. The third time, you're declaring to the heavenly realm that you are ready, you are open, you are aligned. This activation transforms an ordinary object into a sacred reminder. From this moment forward, every time you reach into your pocket and feel that clove, your subconscious will remember this prayer, this moment, this decision to walk in faith and expectation. The impact of this practice builds over time. It's not about instant manifestation. It's about consistent alignment. Day after day, that small reminder in your pocket keeps you tuned to the right frequency, keeps your mindset oriented toward blessing rather than lack, keeps your energy field broadcasting faith instead of fear. Now, the second item works in beautiful harmony with this first one, representing something that comes after the cleansing. If you've completed this activation and you're carrying this intention forward, write in the comments, I am activated for blessing. You might be wondering at this point, does this really work? And here's the truth that changes everything. The moment you genuinely believe, it begins to work. Not because the clove itself has some mystical property, but because your faith activates divine power. There's a story in the Gospels about a woman who had been suffering with an issue of blood for 12 years. She'd spent everything she had on doctors and treatments with no results. But when she heard Jesus was passing by, she said to herself, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. She didn't need to touch Jesus himself. She touched his clothing, and power flowed from him to her, because her faith made contact. That's exactly what's happening here. You're using this physical object as a point of contact between your faith and divine power. The garlic doesn't heal you, doesn't bless you, doesn't attract abundance. Your faith does. But having something tangible to touch, something real you can feel, creates a bridge between the invisible realm of spirit and the visible realm of matter. This is the hidden mechanism behind why physical rituals and symbols have been used throughout human history in every spiritual tradition. They're not about worshipping objects. They're about creating contact points where faith can flow. When you carry that clove in your pocket as you move through your day, it becomes a silent, continuous declaration. Without speaking a word, you're saying, Lord, wherever I go today, cleanse my path. Remove what doesn't belong in my life. Absorb whatever negative energy tries to attach to me. Let me walk in your light, in your favor, in your abundance. It's a prayer that travels with you to work, to meetings, to difficult conversations, to moments of stress and uncertainty. While everyone else around you might be operating in worry and fear, you've got a reminder right there in your pocket that you're walking under divine protection. This constant awareness creates a shift in your entire energy field. Your decisions change because you're not making them from a place of desperation, but from a place of faith. Your reactions change because you're not being tossed around by circumstances, but anchored in spiritual truth. Your presence changes because you're carrying a frequency of blessing rather than burden. People might not be able to articulate what's different about you, but they'll sense it. Some will be drawn to your peace. Others might feel uncomfortable around your faith because it challenges their fear-based mindset. The transformation happening here isn't just about attracting money or material blessings, though those often follow. It's about fundamentally shifting how you move through the world, how you interpret your journey, how you respond to both challenges and opportunities. The second item builds on this foundation beautifully. If you're experiencing this shift in how you carry yourself through life, write in the comments, "I walk in divine favor." Here's something most people don't realize until they start doing the inner work. The negative energy blocking your blessing isn't usually in your environment or coming from other people. It's inside you. It's the guilt you're still carrying from mistakes you made 5, 10, 20 years ago. It's the fear of scarcity that got programmed into you from watching your parents struggle. It's the bitterness you've been nurturing from that time someone betrayed your trust or took advantage of your kindness. These internal blocks are far more powerful than any external circumstance because they shape your frequency from the inside out. This is why the garlic practice becomes so transformative over time. It's not a one-time cleansing. It's a daily reminder to release what you're holding on to. Every morning when you place it in your pocket, you're making a conscious decision. Today, I choose to let go. Today, I choose faith over fear. Today, I choose forgiveness over bitterness. And as that clove symbolically absorbs negative energy throughout your day, something shifts in your spirit. You begin to feel lighter. Your thoughts become clearer. Your heart becomes more open. You're creating internal space for blessings to land. What's remarkable is how quickly people start noticing tangible changes once they commit to this practice with genuine faith. Within days, sometimes even within hours, small blessings begin appearing that seem like coincidences but aren't. Someone unexpectedly pays back an old debt you'd written off. A new opportunity surfaces through a random conversation. A bill you were worried about gets mysteriously reduced or cancelled. The anxiety that's been keeping you up at night suddenly releases and peace settles in. These aren't random events. This is the direct result of your spiritual frequency changing. The clove itself didn't create these blessings. Your shifted consciousness did. When you changed your internal vibration from fear to faith, from scarcity to abundance, from closed to open, you sent out a completely different signal to the universe. And the universe always responds to your dominant frequency. What you were broadcasting before was "I'm stuck, I'm blocked, I'm afraid." What you're broadcasting now is "I'm ready, I'm open, I'm expecting good things." Heaven hears that signal and responds accordingly. This is the hidden impact of seemingly simple spiritual practices. They create internal transformation that manifests as external change. The journey from blocked to blessed isn't about waiting for circumstances to change first. It's about changing your inner world so profoundly that circumstances have no choice but to reorganize around your new frequency. The second item in this practice represents what naturally flows once the cleansing has created space. If you're already noticing shifts and blessings appearing in unexpected ways, write in the comments, "Blessings are finding me." The second item you'll carry alongside that clove of garlic is another type of clove entirely, a whole clove, the spice. And just like with the garlic, your first reaction might be, "Really? We're still talking about kitchen ingredients?" But stay with me because the symbolism here is profound, and the impact on your transformation journey is undeniable. A whole clove is incredibly humble in appearance. It's tiny, dark, unassuming. You could hold a dozen in your palm. Yet despite its size, a clove carries a fragrance that absolutely refuses to go unnoticed. Even the smallest one fills an entire room with warmth and sweetness that lingers long after you've left. This is exactly how grace operates in your life. 1. Small act of faith, one moment of kindness, one decision to respond differently than you've always responded. It changes the entire atmosphere, not through force or volume, but through essence. The clove teaches us something crucial about how to move through this world. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention or recognition. It doesn't try to overpower other scents or dominate the space. Yet wherever it's placed, transformation happens. Food tastes richer. Tea becomes medicinal. Air becomes fragrant. Presence is felt. This is the mindset shift that changes everything. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to have the most impact. You don't need to force your way through obstacles or fight for every inch of progress. When you carry the essence of grace, when your spirit radiates warmth and sweetness regardless of circumstances, you transform environments simply by being present. The world is going to test you daily. People will disappoint you. Situations will frustrate you. Injustice will anger you. Financial pressure will stress you. Health challenges will discourage you. And in those moments you have a choice about what you release. When life applies heat and pressure, when you feel like you're being burned by circumstances, you can either release smoke, bitterness, complaint, negativity, anger, or you can release aroma. The clove teaches this beautifully. When it's crushed, when pressure is applied, it doesn't become toxic. It releases more fragrance. It becomes more potent, more healing, more valuable. This is the hidden revelation about trials and difficulties. They're not punishments. They're opportunities to reveal what's truly inside you. When you're crushed by circumstances, may you respond like that clove, with warmth, with sweetness, with a comforting presence that makes others feel safe rather than threatened. The third item completes this trinity of transformation in a way that brings everything together. If you're committed to releasing grace even when life applies pressure, write in the comments, "I release sweetness, not smoke." What's fascinating about this practice of carrying cloves is that it's not some modern spiritual trend. This goes back centuries. Ancient travelers would carry cloves with them on long journeys, believing that the aroma could purify the air around them and keep sickness at bay. Now, whether that's scientifically accurate isn't really the point. What matters is the faith behind the act. These travelers understood something profound. Purity and protection could coexist in something small and ordinary. They recognized that the items we keep close to our bodies, the objects we carry with intention, actually shape the energy field surrounding us. This is the same principle behind wearing religious symbols, carrying prayer beads, or keeping meaningful tokens in your wallet. It's not superstition when done with genuine faith. It's energy management. It's consciousness alignment. When you carry that whole clove in your pocket alongside the garlic, you're adding another layer of protection and another frequency to your spiritual broadcast. The garlic cleanses and removes negative energy. The clove adds sweetness, grace, and the aroma of divine favor. Together, they create a powerful combination working on your behalf throughout the day. But there's another dimension to the clove's symbolism that speaks directly to where you might be in your journey right now. Spiritually, the clove represents the sweetness of divine timing. Here's what I mean. A clove tree doesn't produce fruit quickly. It takes years, sometimes 5, 6, 7 years, of growing in silence, developing deep roots, strengthening its trunk, before it ever produces a single bud. During those years, if you judged that tree by what you could see above ground, you might think nothing significant was happening. But beneath the surface, an entire root system is being established. Strength is being built. The capacity to bear fruit is being developed. Your blessings work exactly the same way. Just because you can't see them manifesting yet doesn't mean they're not developing. Just because the breakthrough hasn't appeared doesn't mean the roots aren't growing deep right now. Divine timing means that everything is happening in the perfect sequence, even when it feels like nothing is happening at all. And here's the beautiful part. When those blessings finally emerge, when that clove tree finally blooms, the fruit is so potent that just one clove can flavor an entire dish. One bud can fill an entire room with fragrance. Your breakthrough, when it comes, will be powerful enough to transform not just one area of your life, but entire situations, entire seasons, entire chapters of your story. The third and final item brings a grounding, preserving element that completes this powerful trinity. If you're trusting divine timing, even when you can't see progress yet, write in the comments, "My roots are growing deep." So as you go through your daily life with that clove in your pocket, it becomes more than just a symbol. It becomes your teacher, your reminder, your gentle guide back to grace. When bitterness tries to visit your home, when someone says something hurtful or a situation triggers old wounds, reach into your pocket and feel that clove. Let it remind you in that moment to speak gently instead of retaliating. Let it whisper, "You can choose sweetness over sharpness right now." When fear starts whispering its lies, that you won't have enough, that things won't work out, that you're not protected, remember that faith has a stronger fragrance than fear. That clove is a physical reminder that you're choosing to broadcast faith regardless of what circumstances look like. And in those moments when you feel completely unseen, when it seems like nobody notices your effort, your sacrifice, your quiet faithfulness, that small clove in your pocket reminds you of a powerful truth. Heaven sees you completely and lovingly. Every act of kindness you thought went unnoticed, every sacrifice you made in secret, every time you chose grace when you could have chosen revenge, every moment you kept going when quitting would have been easier. It's all been seen, all been recorded, all been noticed by the one whose opinion matters most. The world doesn't need more noise right now. It doesn't need louder voices or bigger personalities or more aggressive energy. What the world desperately needs is more fragrance, more people who carry grace, who radiate peace, who transform atmospheres simply by being present. And you were born to be one of those people. Now we come to the third and final item, and this one might be the most profound of all because of its biblical significance and historical weight. The third item is salt. Just a pinch, humble, ancient, utterly sacred. Throughout human history, salt has moved entire empires. Wars were fought over it. Trade routes were established because of it. It healed wounds when medicine was scarce. It preserved food and prevented nations from starving. Covenants and unbreakable bonds were sealed with salt. When two parties wanted to make an agreement that could never be broken, they shared salt together. When people wanted to describe something as completely pure, they said it was as pure as salt. This wasn't just seasoning. This was currency, medicine, preservation, and spiritual symbol, all wrapped into one crystalline substance. Salt represents purity, integrity, and the preservation of what's good even when everything around it tries to decay. And when you understand what salt does spiritually, you'll realize why carrying it completes this powerful trinity of transformation. If you're ready to understand salt's role in preserving your blessings, write in the comments, "I am the salt of the earth." What I love about salt is that it never makes a grand entrance. It doesn't announce itself or demand recognition. Salt simply does what it was designed to do: preserve, purify, and enhance. When decay tries to creep into food, salt stops it. When flavor starts to fade, salt restores it. When wounds threaten to become infected, salt cleanses them. It doesn't need applause or validation, it just works. And this is exactly what divine wisdom does in your life when you allow it to operate. It keeps your spirit from rotting under the weight of bitterness. It restores joy in places where dullness and disappointment have crept in. It preserves the goodness in your heart, even when the world around you is falling apart. Carrying salt in your pocket alongside the garlic and clove creates a complete spiritual ecosystem. The garlic cleanses and removes what doesn't belong. The clove adds sweetness and grace. The salt preserves the transformation and keeps you from losing your flavor, your essence, your spiritual vitality. Together, these three items work in harmony to shift your consciousness and maintain your alignment with divine frequency. But salt carries an even deeper revelation about value and worth that might completely change how you see yourself. In ancient times, salt was so valuable that it was literally called white gold. Roman soldiers weren't paid with coins or currency as we know it. They were paid with salt. That's actually where we get the word salary today. Think about that. Salt was considered payment because it represented something lasting, something essential, something you literally could not survive without. You could live without gold ornaments or fancy possessions, but you couldn't live without salt. It was the measure of true value because it sustained life itself. This speaks directly to your journey of transformation and how you measure your worth. Your value isn't in your bank account, your job title, your possessions, or your social status. Your true worth lies in your purity, in the values you refuse to compromise, in the faith you maintain, when it would be easier to quit, in the integrity you demonstrate when nobody's watching. These are your real treasures. These are the things that make you valuable in ways the world can't quantify. When you carry salt as a reminder of this truth, you stop measuring yourself by worldly standards and start recognizing your divine worth. The practice of carrying these three items together creates something powerful that goes deeper than most people realize. If you're beginning to see your worth through heaven's eyes rather than the world's measurement, write in the comments, "My value is in my purity." There's a spiritual dimension to salt that goes even deeper than preservation and value. Throughout Scripture, salt represented covenant, a divine promise, an unbreakable agreement between God and His people. When you carry salt with intention, you're essentially declaring, "I am in covenant with my Creator. I am protected, purified, and preserved by divine promise." This isn't wishful thinking or positive affirmation. This is positioning yourself in agreement with heaven, acknowledging that there's a sacred exchange happening between the earthly realm where you live and the spiritual realm where all things originate. Salt also teaches us something critical about balance in this journey of transformation. Too little salt and food tastes empty, lifeless. Too much salt, and it becomes inedible, overwhelming. The right amount brings out flavor, enhances what's already there, makes everything better. Your life requires this same wisdom, knowing when to give and when to hold back, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to push forward and when to rest. The salt in your pocket becomes a daily reminder to stay grounded, to remain centered in peace even when life swings to extremes. When chaos tries to pull you off center, that salt whispers, "Stay balanced, stay rooted, stay true." Now you might be wondering why I keep emphasizing that these items go in your pocket. Specifically, why not wear them around your neck or keep them on a shelf at home or place them under your pillow? Because your pocket is intimate. It's close to your body, right there against your leg or near your heart. It moves when you move. It travels everywhere you travel. It becomes woven into the fabric of your daily rhythm, and that's where real faith actually lives. Not in the mountaintop moments or the rare visits to sacred spaces, but in the ordinary, everyday movements of your life. When your hand reaches into your pocket for your keys or your phone and accidentally brushes against these items, something beautiful happens. In that instant, you remember. You remember who you are. You remember whose you are. You remember the promises you've declared over yourself. You remember that you're not navigating this alone. This practice isn't superstition or magic. It's anchoring your faith in the mundane moments where faith is most needed and most easily forgotten. It's saying with your whole being, "Lord, let me not forget even for a moment that I am yours and you are mine." 50 years from now, when your hair is gray and your hands are weathered, you'll reach into your pocket out of habit and you'll smile because you'll finally understand the truth. If this entire practice is making sense to you now, write in the comments, "I carry my covenant with me." It wasn't the garlic, the clove, or the salt that changed your life. It was the faith that grew in you because you chose to remember. It was the daily decision to carry divine connection with you everywhere you went. It was the transformation that happened inside you while the world around you slowly reorganized itself to match your new frequency. If you made it all the way to the end of this message, you're not here by accident. Something in you recognized truth when you heard it. Something in your spirit knew this was meant for you right now, in this season, at this exact moment in your journey. And I want you to know that I see you. I honor the faith it took to stay present through this entire teaching, to remain open even when parts of it challenged your old ways of thinking. If you found value in what we explored together today, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. This channel exists to bring you practical spiritual wisdom that actually works in real life. Not just theory that sounds nice, but leaves you unchanged. There's so much more I want to share with you about manifestation, faith, practices, and walking in divine alignment, and I don't want you to miss any of it. And before you go, leave a comment right now that says, "This message was meant for me." Let that be your declaration that you received what you needed today. When you write it, you're not just leaving a comment, you're sealing your intention, making it real, putting it into words. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious to know where you are in the world and what resonated most deeply with you. If this teaching touched something in you, if it shifted something in your perspective, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps this message reach others who need to hear it just as much as you did. Now there's something else you need to see. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into how your words create your reality and how to speak blessings that actually manifest. It's the perfect next step on this journey we're taking together. Click it and continue with me over there. I'll be waiting for you.